on Monday.
We're going to start with breaking news tonight, everybody. Welcome to this Friday night edition of Banfield. Once again, huge news out of Idaho. The fullest, the clearest, the most wrenching picture yet of that nightmare at 1122 King Road on the morning of November 13th, 2022. We have reported on the survivor's frantic call to 911. We have parsed the written transcript, and just last night, we were able to fill in some gaps and correct some discrepancies. But tonight, we have the recording itself in full, and I'm going to let you hear it in full. First, I'll just say this. The dead students' housemates, Dylan Mortensen and Bethany Funk, are joined on the call by two neighbors from next door. And at least when the call begins, it seems painfully clear that no one has the slightest idea of how bad the situation inside the house really is. So with that as your preamble, I'm going to go over a lot of the transcript after this call. So just listen and don't worry. I know some of it's really hard to hear, but I will go line by line for a lot of it. But I wanted you to hear it in its entirety so you can make judgments for yourself. Play it.
911 location of your emergency.
Hi, something is happening. Something happened in our house. We don't know what.
What is the address of the emergency?
1122.
What is the rest of the address?
Oh, Kings Road.
Okay. And is that a house or an apartment?
It's a house.
Can you repeat the address to make sure that I have it right?
I'll talk to you guys. We live at the White, so we're next to them.
I need someone to repeat the address for verification.
The address, 1122 King Road.
And what's the phone number that you're calling from?
What's your phone number?
And tell me exactly what's going on.
One of the roommates has passed out, and she was drunk last night, and she's not waking up.
Okay.
Oh, and they saw some man in their house last night. Yeah. Hi, this is.
And are you with the patient? Okay, I need someone to keep the phone, stop passing it around.
Can I just tell you what happened pretty much?
What is going on currently? Is someone passed out right now?
I don't really know, but pretty much at 4 a.m.
Okay, I need to know what's going on right now if someone is passed out. Can you find that out?
Yeah, I'll come. Come on, Bethany, you gotta go check. But we have to. Did you pass out? She's not waking up.
Okay, one moment. I'm getting help started that way.
Okay, thank you. What's wrong?
Okay, and how old is she?
She's 20.
20, you said?
Yes, 20. Here's one.
Okay.
Hello? Hello?
Okay, I need someone to stop passing the phone around because I've talked to 4 different people.
Okay, sorry, they just gave me the phone.
Is she breathing?
Hello?
Is she breathing?
No.
Okay.
You talk to them, say. I can't talk to them. I need you to talk to them.
Hello.
Okay. I've already sent the ambulance and law enforcement. Stay on the line. If there is a defibrillator available, send someone to get it now and tell me when you have it.
Say that again? There's a police here right now.
Okay. If there's a defibrillator available, send someone to get it now and tell me when you have it.
We don't have one. I think yes. Do you have a defibrillator? Yes, we have one.
Are you talking to the officer?
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to let you go since he's there with you and can help you.
Okay, thank you. Bye.
Okay.
Just a little further on in the transcript, but not on the call, you can clearly hear an officer saying, I think this is a homicide. That's been a big thing for me because we don't know how much time passed between Dylan said goodbye and the officer knew homicide. I'm going to get to that in just a moment. But joining me right now is NewsNation senior national correspondent Brian Enton. He's been following this case since the beginning. Let's start at the very beginning. Your impression overall of the call, Brian.
Yeah, heartbreaking, just the panic in their voices, the way it sort of evolves throughout the call from what you can feel they're thinking in the beginning versus it almost feels like there's this moment where they discover that something really, really bad has happened midway through the call. And then actually I was just thinking about how we know so much about the case now. When you listen to it knowing all of the facts and everything that's come out, but you just sort of put yourself in their shoes in that moment, just waking up, knowing nothing after a night of partying, and just the pure horror that must have been like for these young college kids.
And we do have to put our hats on for being them at that moment, not hindsight. There's so much we know now, but they knew nothing at that point. And this next bit, I think, highlights how little they knew, Brian, because at first, a neighbor gets on the phone and says one roommate is drunk and passed out. Let me read the transcript. The dispatcher says, tell me what's exactly going on. Female neighbor says, one of the roommates who's passed out and she was drunk last night and she's not waking up. Oh, and they saw some man in their house last night. It's very, she's very matter of fact, and she definitely doesn't sound terrified. They have not seen anything. Like, with that kind of a tone of voice, even though Dylan is seemingly very upset at the beginning, that's not somebody who knows there's a bloodbath upstairs.
Right. And remember, based on the witnesses who we spoke to after this happened, all of these kids were out in the front driveway and out towards the road. It seems like when they were on the phone for part of the 911 call. I think that's why the neighbor at one point from the house to the right took the phone. But you made an interesting point when she says, saw a man in the house around 4 a.m. It's almost like she's less concerned about that at that moment, which kind of goes back to the text messages and all the questions about, well, why didn't they call 911 then? I mean, perhaps they really did just think this was some kind of prank. It was a party house. And when she says saw a man in the house around 4 a.m., she doesn't sound that concerned about it. She seemed more worried that someone's passed out and not responding, not as worried like, hey, there was an intruder in the middle of the night.
Or maybe that intruder, by the way, if we have non-responsive housemates, maybe that intruder brought something last night, gave it to them, and that's why they're not responding. Maybe they've OD'd. It really feels to me like that's the level of their fear and concern, not there was a homicidal maniac in the home last night, because, that would be very upsetting if you're a housemate whose other housemate is unable to answer her door and is out cold. Okay, the other issue, and this is the first time I'd seen this, I had to listen to it a lot of times. At one point, it sounds like they are repeatedly calling at the door, at Xana's door. Xana, Ethan, knock, knock, knock. It really does sound like they're trying to rouse her, but that they can't get past that door. That door is closed.
Yeah, and it's unclear. You're trying to sort of visualize where everybody is in the house and what's actually happening during the call. And we don't really know, but you're right. They do call out for Xana and Ethan. They appear to be looking for them. And again, you can kind of hear they're panicked in the beginning, but it seems to become more panicked as the call goes on. And there's that one point where it's just like that heavy breathing. It's almost like a panic attack at that point. That's kind of what I thought of.
Okay, there's one point where a male gets on the phone, and we think that's now a fraternity brother of Ethan's named Hunter Johnson. And that male on the phone sounds like he may know something is up. And I'll say that because it sounds like it might be his voice saying, Xana, Ethan, and can't get past that door. But it's possible he may have gone to the third floor because there's a long break in between the Xana, Ethan, no response, then a panicked response from Dylan and a get out, get out, get out. Let me read the transcript. So the male says, Xana, Ethan, and 6 seconds pass. Dylan says, she's passed out. What's wrong? Knock, knock, knock. She's not waking up. Male says, Xana. Then 40 seconds, Brian, 40 seconds pass until the next major moment of action. The dispatcher's kind of talking through this 40 seconds, but okay, one moment, I'm getting help, started your way. Dylan goes, okay, thank you. But then Dylan says, what's wrong? And then there's a lot of heavy breathing. I mean, that breathing goes on for 23 seconds of like hyperventilating before there's a whisper that's hard to make out. Could be poor Kaylee, could be come on Kaylee, something unintelligible after that, maybe something about Maddie. And right away at that point, the boy, the male voice, maybe Hunter Johnson is saying, get out, let's get out. And the footsteps what sound like they're going down the stairs. Brian, that to me sounds like Hunter saw something. I don't know if he saw it on the third floor, but it sounds like he saw something and wanted to get them out, but not tell them what he saw.
Yeah, I sort of wondered if that was sort of the turning point in the call, because initially it seems like Dylan believes that Kaylee may have just passed out, that it was some kind of medical issue maybe. A lot of people are questioning, well, there was all the blood. How did you not see the blood? Well, maybe where Kaylee was, it may have been dark. They may have had like blackout blinds. And in those situations, you just don't take everything in. But perhaps when the male goes into another room and maybe at that point saw the blood, realized this was something much more serious. And that's when he said, get out, let's get out. And it just sort of felt like a turning point in the call.
Yeah, I don't know that they got past Xana's door because if they had, they would have seen 2 victims and they would have said something further on the call that this is not just Xana, oh my God, and that doesn't happen. But I think the 40 seconds of pause between Xana, Ethan, and then possibly Hunter might have gone upstairs and seen the evidence, with Kaylee and Maddie on the third floor and then been running out saying, get out, but not telling very distraught Dylan and probably very distraught Bethany what he'd seen. But I will say this, that male voice knows something because the operator asks and the operator gets a very clear answer from him. Let me read this. Dispatch says, is she breathing? And the male voice says, hello? Dispatch, is she breathing? And this is the point where the male voice definitively, specifically says, no. And dispatch says, okay, unintelligible. Then the male voice says, you talk to them, okay? I can't talk to them. They need you to talk to them. Brian, this is a point where I feel like it's possible, if this is Hunter Johnson, that he wanted to get off that phone because maybe he's hearing the sirens because the police officers are just like seconds away in the transcript. Maybe he wanted to get off that phone to meet that officer and tell that officer what he'd seen, so that Dylan and Bethany might not overhear what he was saying.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. And it also plays right into what you said about how it appears at the end of the call, you can hear the officer saying that it's a homicide. How would he have known that so quickly right after arriving? Perhaps the male voice, Brandon, perhaps, is the one who said something and then he knew right where to go and look. But it's confusing to know exactly what's going on, honestly, because they're passing the phone around, the heavy breathing. Some of you can't make out what they're saying. It's just another reason I think, with the trial coming up, when it's going to be awful for them, but when some of these kids get on the stand and actually explain what they did see, it's going to be really eye-opening.
Yeah, I mean, it is just 3 lines after Dylan says goodbye to the operator. There's a line saying, 13, I think we have a homicide, and that is a first responder. But the problem is 13, I think we have a homicide. It's not on the call. So we can't measure the amount of time from the moment that Dylan hung up to the moment this first responder knows it's a homicide. But my betting is, again, it's a theory, is that I think that that male caller who said, get out, get out, get out, and I'm not going to be on this phone call with the 911 right now, may have gone to the officer to say quietly, this is awful. There is hell on earth in that house.
Yeah, why would he be saying get out, get out, get out? I mean, if you just thought it was a medical emergency, an overdose kind of situation, you could maybe do CPR. Why would you be getting out of the house, everybody out in the driveway, near the road? Certainly they saw something.
It is, you're right. The trial will fill in a lot more of the gaps, but you've been really helpful, Brian. Thank you for this tonight. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Ash.
I am joined now by Steve Gonzalez. He lost his daughter, Kaylee, that tragic morning. Steve, I know that mercifully that the authorities gave you that tape before the rest of us. You've had some time. But beyond that, I don't know how, after 2.5 years of gag order, this landed with you. I don't know if this was more painful, more elucidating, a bitter pill. Tell me how you're coping with this at this point.
I'm a father, so it's not, my emotions are really my children and my wife. So I would say that they feel like they're slowly drowning, and I'm the guy that's trying to help them stay from drowning. And these slow leaks, this torturous process that we're going through, they've done a better job. They've responded to our feedback. We have said, hey, the 911 call is not something that we want to turn on TV and actually see. So they have responded. They have done a better job of, this is a community that doesn't know what murder is. They don't have any clue how to handle, public relations. It just doesn't really exist. So we're getting through it together, and it's hard to say it's getting better, but they are communicating, and we're trying to protect our children and protect all the families and protect the survivors to make sure that we don't have these trolls that are attacking them for no reason.
Did you get any clarity? Did you learn anything or any epiphanies when you listened to the call?
Yes. I mean, I always wanted it to make more sense. Like any murder, your brain wants to gravitate towards make this make sense. But the truth is, murder never makes sense. This is a psychopathic person who does something that breaks the norm of all of our consciousness. All of our minds are just struggling with the fact that this has happened. So we can logically try to make it make sense, but it's not really going to make sense. It's not Hollywood, where they try to make it all fit together. In real life, you're just sitting there dumbfounded, like, why can somebody be killed in their bedroom? How does that make sense?
You mentioned in a statement today that you think Hunter Johnson protected those girls. I mean, listen, I don't know what happened, but I'm trying to piece this together like a puzzle, and it sure feels like he knew something and he protected Bethany from knowing. Do you think that he went up to the third floor and may have seen what happened to Kaylee and Maddie and therefore said, get out, get out, get out, but did not tell Bethany and did not tell Dylan?
I talked to Hunter directly, and it sucks. He had a broken soul. This is a man who's seen his best friend dead, dying, like gone. So we exchanged a moment, and I talked to him, and he was trying to protect everyone in that house to not go through what was overwhelming him at the moment. So I don't know about the details of upstairs, downstairs, door open, door not. But in the bigger picture, does it really matter? He was literally just responding to what he probably thought was a prank. thinking his friend, his best buddy, had these girls rolling, and he showed up there and he seen the opposite of our prank, and I seen it in his eyes. He was broken. He was very broken from what he had seen.
Well, did Hunter tell you that he was able to open the door to Xana's room and witness Xana and Ethan in there?
He told me that he went to the door and he was trying to go through that door and he was trying to figure out what was going on in there. It's kind of like what you're hearing with that audio. He announced himself. He said, "Hey, I'm here. What's going on?" But they didn't respond. And he went in there, he seen something, and I think around 2:15 you hear when somebody truly sees something. Like, you got to remember, there's blankets, there's covers, there's the bed. So this person, they could have totally been covered up to where you just flip that blanket over and then all of a sudden you understand the impact of what really, really happened. They're not sleeping anymore. It is what it is. And you hear kind of like a roar, like a painful roar. And I think that's what was going on. But that's just me. That's just my interpretation of the same call that you guys are analyzing.
But based on the conversation you had with Hunter, you know that he did make entry into Xana and Ethan's room and witness something that made him say to the girls, out, let's get out, let's get out?
He told me, "I found my best friend dead." That's what he said. So and there was a look inside of him like he had seen something that he could never prepared himself for. So I think he was just being stoic, protecting every single one of those victims that were alive, and just said, "Get out of here." It's the same thing that's happened if a man sees their dog get hit by a car in front of their children. You do everything to mitigate that pain and say, "You guys run, get in the house, get out of here, leave, run, go." And then a guy has to do what a guy has to do. And you take your dog, and that's what I sensed from him.
Steve, you're one of the most stoic people that I've come across, in my line of work. This is no place where anyone wants to be. You did not invite yourself into this unwelcome club, an unwanted club. But my God, are you ever a role model? Thank you for your time tonight. Thank you for your help. And please accept our heartfelt wishes that you are going to be whole again.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am.
Steve Gonzalez joining us tonight. And still to come tonight on this show, walk on the beach, a kiss in the surf, and then a fight for their lives against rolling surf. The last man to see a missing spring breaker alive in the Dominican Republic tells police that he didn't harm her. He tried to save her. But what happened after that is still a mystery. There are questions he says he simply can't answer, and some his lawyer won't let him answer. I'm going to unpack all of it with the police officer who worked on Lacey Peterson's case. Also, if you check out my Drop Dead Serious podcast tonight, analysis of that 911 call. We break it down line by line. Check it out right there. There's the QR code, Drop Dead Serious. Back in just a moment.
Can turn into windshield cracks. But at least you can go to safelight.com and schedule a fix in minutes.
Sweet.
SafeLight can come to you for free. Don't wait. Go to safelight.com and schedule now.
Verizon and AT&T announced price hikes a total of 10 times in the past 2 years. Families can switch to T-Mobile and get all the benefits of their plans while saving 20%. T-Mobile blows the competition away.
The last man known to have seen that missing spring breaker in the Dominican Republic says he didn't know what happened to her, but that both of them came very close to drowning before they parted ways. The man, who is only a witness, not a suspect, was seen on surveillance footage with Sudiksha Konanki and a group of friends, all of them headed for the beach at 4:15 in the morning after spending time in the hotel bar. The waves were violent that day, and red flags were posted. A local news outlet got a transcript of an interview that he gave with local prosecutors this week, reportedly his 4th interview down there. He says he and Sudiksha waded out into the water up to their knees, where they, quote, talked and kissed a bit. And then he says, quote, a big wave came up and hit us both and then dragged us out to sea. When we surfaced, we tried to ask for help, but there was no one there. I was tired. I realized she was also getting tired of swimming. The man says he worked as a lifeguard, but in a pool, not in the ocean, and that the conditions were brutal. He says he held Sudiksha under his arm and swam towards the shore. Quote, I was trying to make sure that she could breathe the entire time, and that prevented me from breathing. I swallowed a lot of seawater. When I finally touched the ground at the beach, I put her in front of me. Then she went to collect her belongings since the ocean had moved us. She was not out of the water since it was knee deep. She was walking at an angle in the water. The last time I saw her, I asked if she was okay. I didn't hear her response because I began to vomit with all the seawater I had swallowed. After vomiting, I looked around. I didn't see anyone. I thought she had taken her things and left. The man says he passed out on that beach and was finally awakened by mosquitoes and the sunrise. He is seen on video returning to the hotel just before 9 a.m. He says he went back to his room to sleep it off and was surprised to learn that Sudiksha had not done the same thing. The transcript shows he declined to answer about 8 questions on the advice of his lawyer, like whether he told his friend what happened, whether Sudiksha knew how to swim, and how the authorities can verify anything that he has said. Yesterday, American detectives interviewed him with his lawyer and his father present, and they say he was cooperative. His parents say they got a lawyer involved because their son was being, quote, detained under irregular circumstances or conditions, and that being questioned without a legal counsel or even official translators concerned them. Again, he is not a suspect, nor is he even a person of interest. And this case itself is not even a criminal case. I'll say yet, because they are still investigating. I'm joined now by John Buehler. He's a former detective in the Modesto, California Police Department who worked on the Lacey Peterson case and questioned Scott Peterson the day after Lacey went missing. John, it's good to see you again. Thanks so much for doing the program. I keep coming back to the fact that we are at 8 days, John. There are American police on the ground. The sheriff of her local jurisdiction is on the ground. The embassy officials are on the ground from India. I'm told possibly American embassy officials, even though she's not American, but she's a resident. If we're 8 days and he's not a suspect and he's not a person of interest and they're not even calling this a crime, how much do you think this actually could be a crime?
Well, you can kind of flip a coin on that one. It may not be a crime at all, especially when you consider the surf conditions and things like that, and the fact that the body hasn't been found. When we look at things like this as a detective, a lot of times we won't tell anybody that a guy's a person of interest or that he's a suspect. We keep that pretty close to the vest. So he may be under suspicion more than they're telling somebody, but again, it doesn't sound like anything is concrete when it comes to looking like this is a crime. She may never be recovered because of the surf conditions, but when looking at the pictures of the resort area, it would be very difficult for him to commit a crime like this if he did harm her and then hide her. It seems like they would have found her by now.
Well, let me put that picture up. I think you make an interesting point because I've been studying the aerial view of this resort. It is massive. It's absolutely massive. Let's get the control room to pop that picture up. The sea is probably 50 to 100 yards. Then there's all the sort of tree-lined area where you can get shade on the beach, right? Then there's the pool area. Then there's the giant courtyard and the hotel that surrounds it all. Then there's more pools and more hotel. So now there's next door, there's a resort as well. And then off to the left, there's a big resort too. But if you're going to commit a crime and kill someone right at the water's edge, you tell me as an officer, how is someone going to get a body that's somewhere around maybe 120 to 140 pounds when there's cops all over the beach at night? There are kids sleeping all over the beach because the power's out. And that's a hell of a drag. I mean, I don't know how you would do that.
Yeah, it looks unlikely to me that he would have done anything with a body because you'd see drag marks in the sand, and plus you don't have a tropical jungle coming right up to the beach itself, where it would be easy to put somebody and have them not being discovered for a few days. It does look more likely that she might have gotten dragged out to sea, but the thing that concerns people that look at these, especially your viewers, you're always skeptical when somebody doesn't answer simple questions like, did you know that if she could swim or not? Or did you call your friends and tell them what happened? Advice from an attorney not to talk about those things, I guess for the legal aspect, that's good because they always want to protect their client. But if he's got nothing to hide, I don't know why he can't answer questions like that.
Well, I've been doing this work for a long time, and I have 2 boys who are off on spring break this week in tropical locations. And I can tell you, John Buehler, I would have run down there and put a muzzle over their mouth before they said hello, because you don't know how the authorities there behave. Hell, we don't even know oftentimes how authorities here behave. And so kids are dumb. I mean, 18-year-old boys who've been drinking, they just don't know what they're saying and how it can be used against them. So I will never fault anybody for having a lawyer say don't answer questions, but to the lay people, it sure sounds sketchy. I'd love to have you back. It's good to see you again.
Right back at you. Thanks so much.
John Buehler joining us again. Worked on the Lacey Peterson case, knows what he's talking about. Coming up next, free advice for any convicted murderer who's about to face a parole board. Don't say the victim brought it on herself, especially if that victim is the world-famous Selena. And the killer is her much-hated manager who shot her in the back 30 years ago. Did Yolanda Saldivar think the parole board might not hear her comments? The Texas cop who worked Selena's murder that day joins me next. I am not a lawyer and I never claimed to be one, but I don't think blaming the person you kill is a smart move for someone trying to impress a parole board. Call me crazy. Talking to you, Yolanda Saldivar, many of us remember this like it was yesterday. Yolanda murdered Selena Quintanilla, but everyone knew her as Selena, first name basis. She was a Tejano music sensation in 1995. But during an argument in a South Texas motel, Yolanda shot her in the back. Yolanda claimed it was an accident, but she was sent to prison for life with a chance at parole after 30 years. And now 30 years is up. Her parole hearing is set for March 30th, 16 days away. But according to Saldivar's family, Yolanda is still holding on to her accident story and that Selena is partly to blame for her own death. They say, quote, Yolanda knows what she did was wrong and she takes responsibility for it, but she was reacting to the way she was confronted. She says that Selena came at her really aggressively. If Selena had confronted her differently, this never would have happened. Is that right? I am pleased to welcome back to the program John Houston. He is a retired police commander from Corpus Christi, Texas, who was the first officer on the scene of Selena's murder back in 1995. Commander Houston, it's good to have you back on the program. Thank you so much for being here tonight. Not the best way to get parole, I would imagine. Do you agree?
I would agree 100%. It's what kind of negative attention you want to bring to yourself 2 weeks before your hearing. It's just ridiculous. A continuation of the lies.
I can't figure it out. Speaking of the lies, it's great that you're the first person on the scene because you have a perspective a lot of people won't have. Yolanda Saldivar had a different story that she told you after she took the gun from her head after a very long standoff about why she killed Selena. What was it?
Well, she was indicating that the father was trying to interrupt the business relationship between the two, and the relationship, it was the father's fault. It was everything was blamed on the father, and it was accidental. She didn't mean to do it. And then, of course, today she comes out and she's like, well, if she hadn't talked to me, I wouldn't have killed her. I mean, just nonsense, complete nonsense.
So, like, it gets even more specific. When you mention father, I want to be clear. We're talking about Selena's father. And didn't Yolanda say, Selena's father made me kill her? And the quote is, he made me shoot her. Selena's own father made me shoot her. What does that even mean? Like, what was her context for saying that?
I think it was the context that the father had figured out that she was stealing money, and that the business relationship with her in charge of the fan club was now coming to an end. And I think the father didn't want Selena to have any business with her. And I think that was the context of it, was like she was really mad that if the father hadn't gotten away, that they still would have had some kind of relationship, or she would still steal. I mean, she's been a liar since day one, so this doesn't surprise me.
But it doesn't make any sense either, because Selena's father, let's just say if Yolanda was telling the truth, that Selena's father made me kill his daughter, or asked me to kill his daughter. A, it's his daughter, so I doubt it. And B, she's the golden goose. And they are all literally working for Selena. So what would be the reason did Yolanda even have one? Could she even make one up that Selena's father told Yolanda to kill Selena?
No, I think this is just, I mean, she's been working on this for 30 years. It's been story after story. I think as she got close to 30 years, she's just trying to get media attention, even bad media attention. And she's got fans out there that, I don't know, they follow people like her. And it's pretty sad. But it's sad for the family that they got to put up with this nonsense. She belongs in jail. She needs to stay there.
I have a feeling she might. We'll have to check in 16 days. John Houston, thank you.
Thank you.
Coming up next, Wendy Williams returns to daytime television, this time hanging out with her friends on The View. It has been a hell of a week for Wendy, and she took the floor to tell her side of it. Wendy, in her own words, next.
Dog's lifespan. That's why I formulated Nature's Blend.
Now you can feed your dog wholesome cuts of real meat, vegetables, and fruit with no artificial preservatives or fillers. Try Dr. Marty risk-free. Go to drmartypets.com/TV.
Wendy Williams has lost a lot in the past 3 years, but her edge, her sass, her flair for the dramatic, she still has those to spare. For proof, I will direct you to pretty much any of the press interviews that she's given lately, including to me. I talked to her for an hour on my Drop Dead Serious podcast. But especially her conversation today on The View. The phone interview with the ladies of The View that Wendy recorded yesterday and we reported on last night, well, that aired this morning. And here's a snippet of it, starting with the question of her ambulance ride to the Lenox Hill Hospital on Monday.
Well, I went to the hospital, I was having a little agina, and to go to the hospital, look, where I live, you know what I'm saying, at this memory unit on this floor, I just needed a breath of fresh air, you know what I'm saying? I needed to see the doctors, so that's why I went to the hospital.
I see.
All
right.
And then while I was at the hospital, I also got blood drawn for my thyroid, But most importantly, what I'm saying, being at the hospital, it was my choice to get an independent evaluation on my incapacitation, which I don't have it.
You sound okay to me.
How dare they say I have incapacitation?
Yes.
I do not. I'm a globally international person, from radio to television, Yeah. I've been doing important things all of my life, and these two people don't look like me, they don't dress like me, they don't talk like me, they don't act like me, and I venture to say they will never be me. Mm-hmm. I need them to... with my knees, get off my neck.
Yeah.
Well, Gina Lisa, I want to bring... Oh, go ahead, Wendy.
I can't do it with these two people again. I can't. And I'm speaking of the guardian.
And the guardians.
And the judge. I need a new guardian.
And Wendy's court-appointed guardian, Sabrina Morrissey, told TMZ that Wendy has complete freedom to come and go as she pleases, even to travel. But Wendy says those are all lies, and that she's essentially a prisoner in her luxury assisted living center called Coterie. We reached out to the judge and to Wendy's guardian this week, and we've heard nothing back. Wendy and her niece went out to dinner Wednesday night after her hospital visit, which reportedly triggered a visit from the NYPD to the coterie, which would seem to confirm that she does not necessarily have freedom of movement. None of the cops show up if you go for dinner. We reached out to Wendy's guardian, I told you, and that judge. Nothing, no response. Judge is reportedly livid, we hear, over Wendy's public comments, so who knows how long Wendy will have access to the microphone. Tonight, so far as we know, Wendy Williams is back at the coterie and back under lockdown. Coming up next, the woman who was once called the most hated mom in America is being hated on again after launching a new career as a legal advocate. But how does Casey Anthony's new career launch into overdrive? Oh, that's an easy one. When Gypsy Rose Blanchard weighs in, that's how, and we've got that next. I have told you about Casey Anthony's reinvention as a legal advocate, complete with an online newsletter for paying subscribers. And given her history on the other side of the process, she's gotten just as much attention as you would expect, including now from another infamous name in the true crime world. TMZ caught up with Gypsy Rose Blanchard the other day and asked, quote, Casey Anthony has a new Substack where she's charging people to give them legal advice, even though she's not a lawyer. Do you think that's a good thing? And Gypsy's answer, nope, not at all. In a separate interview, also with TMZ, Gypsy had some advice for the Menendez brothers if they ever get out of prison. She said, and I quote, I will say the one thing that I wish I did was take the time away from the media when I first came out of prison and give myself time to adjust. I didn't do that, and I got overwhelmed by it. I would say if they ever do get released, take a break. Really kind of work on yourself. Get your feet on the ground. And then, if that's something you want to pursue, go right ahead. Gypsy served 8 years in prison for her involvement in her abusive mother's murder back in 2015, and she got out in 2023. The second season of Gypsy Rose's Lifetime reality show, Gypsy Rose, Life After Lockup, is now streaming, and new episodes drop every week. Very wise advice, I have to say. I didn't expect this, but boy, she's a very interesting young lady, that Gypsy Rose. All right, speaking of what we were talking about at the top of the show, the 911 call from the Idaho student murders, I've dropped a bonus episode on Drop Dead Serious, my podcast, doing a full analysis of the transcript. So if you check that QR code or you go to Drop Dead Serious, wherever you find your podcasts, you can also watch my podcasts on YouTube. But I have a bonus podcast episode really digging into the theories about what might have happened in that house based on that 911 call. So check it out and then leave a comment. Let me know what you think. Thanks for being with me all week long. It's been a really busy week, I must say. So have a really relaxing weekend. Stay tuned. Cuomo's next.
Chris Cuomo here. Welcome to NewsNation. Right and wrong can be very different from what matters to the right and left. Right is celebrating the SpaceX launch, not because of Elon Musk. Who cares about him? This is about a chance to save astronauts that have been up there way too long, okay? Losing bone density, okay? This is a beautiful achievement if it happens.